Hello everyone, my name is Scalti, and today we're going to be creating a modular frame factory making 10 items per minute utilizing a lot of new assets introduced in Update 5. I hope you enjoy. Alright, before we get our build started, let's go over what we're going to need for our factory. The ore input requirement is going to be 240 iron ore. And if you have access to Mark III belts, you can get away with a single iron node. Otherwise, you'll need 2 iron nodes and maxed out Mark II belts. Additionally, we're going to need 8 smelters, 17 constructors, and 8 assemblers. And the approximate power draw for the factory, depending on your miner usage, will be around 180 megawatts. Also, our foundational footprint area is 10 by 5, and this does not include our miner. So, without further ado, let's jump right in. So this front row of foundations here we'll leave untouched for the moment, and pretty much everything is going to be hidden behind that. So first and foremost, let's get our output or our storage sorted out. So we'll go ahead and take a storage container and we'll bring the front of it up to this seam here of the foundations, and then we can go ahead and take a conveyor full wall and place that right in front. I'll go ahead and also set this to concrete. I like doing the soft clearance, that way you can't see actually inside of here. We can't place the belts anymore to see the item, but that's what we have the new signs for. So in addition to that, let's go ahead and get one more wall placed on top of here. And we'll go ahead and set the concrete to that style as well. And then we'll use this to actually build out our top portion of the actual floor. So let's go ahead and get our 1 meter foundations. We'll actually sample the concrete here. And we're going to build this 9 in length. Then I'll go 3 in this direction. Do 9 again, and I'll go 2 in the opposite direction. Like so. Then we'll go ahead and actually place a couple more walls, but I like to do glass now. Because we can keep belting pretty clean. Glass is a nice little touch to kind of see the inner workings of things. And so we'll build this the full length. And then behind our storage container, we'll go 7 foundations. And then next to that, so we can start down here, we can do 9. And this gives us a little platform here to do some of the logistics. Once we get the smelters in place, you'll see what this will be used for. So with that, let's get our belting sorted out for our storage container real quick. So we're going to take a floor hole, and in the middle of the middle front foundation, we'll put a floor hole in, and then a lift facing toward the back of our storage container. And we'll put a lift on that and then connect it up with a Mark I belt, just like that. So with that, let's go ahead and get sorted out in the front here. And so what I like to do is I'm going to run some stairs up to the top. If you don't have access to these stairs yet, you can use, stackable conveyor pulls and the like. So from the middle foundation, we're going to use just a regular walkway to get a snapping point for our stairs and start halfway into the foundation. We'll build that up twice, and then we'll switch for a T, or for a regular crossing, and then a T crossing. And we'll have the rail face the center of our factory. We don't need anything over here because this is where we will have walls. So up top here we need 8 smelters, but we do have a pretty sizable space. So what we're going to do for some nice symmetry is group them in pairs of 2. So we're going to have 4 pairs. And we're going to have our smelter start with the back end hanging over the seam like so, and in alignment with the second row of foundations in. And then we'll do another one next to that. And then we'll skip 2. And then we'll do our smelters again. And essentially we want 2 foundations in the back here as our gap. And repeat the same thing on the opposite side. And also, if you do not have the blade runners unlocked yet, that is exploring the Caterium tree in the MAM. I would highly recommend it. You can run faster, jump higher, and take reduced fall damage. So it's very helpful for when you're building vertically and you run the risk of falling off from time to time. In terms of the floor hole placement, we're going to place it just on the outside of this little bend here on the smelter, or what would be just like next to the center of the foundation. And we'll do that on all of these. And then when it comes to the output of the smelter, we do it essentially right against the seam of the foundations here, like so. And then once we get these all placed, we will also get the lifts connected up to them. Once we have those in place, we now are going to place in the middle two empty foundations here, 2 floor holes in the center, and this would be our output of iron ingots going up to the next floor. So now that we have all this sorted out, we can head down below and get all the logistics sorted out down here. And so we'll do some windows here, and then on this one I'm going to place a door, and this is all just personal preference. Obviously, you know, do what you would like. By all means, if you want to put some inspiration, by all means do the same thing as well. And so we'll do a door so that way we can get back here. And so let's go ahead and deal with our 240 iron ore coming into the system first. So if we have our smelters grouped as we do, that would make this line here. Or if you actually look where we have those, that means this is the center point of our foundational area for our factory. And so where that is located, we will go ahead and take a splitter, place that there centered with the input facing the miner in the back. And we'll get that connected with the Mark III belt. If you do not have Mark III technology, essentially what will likely happen is you'll just have 2 belts coming in, and then you'll just bring those into the middle here and then split them out into the splitters that we are about to build. But before we get those built, let's go ahead and get our splitters in between our smelters first. And so if we look at our line here, the middle foundation seam, and then we want the splitter to be on this seam right here and middle aligned. And then we can go ahead and bring our lifts up. Make sure you hear the beep. And repeat this 3 more times. Just double checking for some symmetry here, as I noticed that where the actual belt is located can sometimes be different. So I just wanted to make sure that they're both on the outside, like so. Next up, so if we have the splitters located against this seam here, then what we want to do is place a splitter on the opposite side of that seam, but in alignment with our middle splitter. So just like this, with the input facing like that, and we want to make sure that these are actually Mark II belts, because it'll be 240 into 2 lines of 120, and then into 2 lines of 60, and then each of those 60 is broken into 2 lines of 30 for our smelters. Repeat the same process on the other side. Alright, so now that we have that sorted out, we can go ahead and jump up to our next elevation here, and that's where the blade runners come into play. We can jump a full 5 meters in height naturally, or other tech or mechanic that you can use is sliding and then jumping, and that'll get you a further jump and also a higher jump. Alright, so now that we have our outputs located where they are, and these are the outputs going up to the next floor, we'll start with the front here. And so we have our storage container belting a little bit in the way. Normally we would just put a merger in the middle. We can't do that here. So what we're going to do instead is on the next 2 in, we place our merger with the output facing the middle, where this is going to go up, and then right in front of that, or I'm sorry, right in front of that toward the front of the factory, we'll place another merger. And then all we do is just bring our lifts down, facing toward the long edge, and then loop them in nice and cleanly like that. Don't forget to connect your merger up as well. And then the lifts that are going up, we want those to be Mark II, and make sure that the direction is appropriate. to actually receive the iron ingots. Over on this side, we do have the luxury of just taking our mergers and facing them toward the middle here. So that's what we'll do. And then a Mark II lift again, and a Mark II belt, and that'll take care of that. Let's go ahead and head up top. So we'll head to the rear of the factory for the second floor, and similar to what we did with the stairways at the front, I'll go ahead and bring up a regular catwalk, and then we'll do 2 stairs going up. We'll do a regular crossing, and then we will do a T crossing with the rail facing our smelters. And then we'll do 2 more up. And then we can do a regular catwalk crossing like so. And this will at least give us enough to get our next floor started. And we will resolve these catwalks toward the end of the build. So when placing these, you want to make sure that we have them aligned correctly. To make sure it's in alignment, since these snap on the half foundation as they are 4 meters in width. And we want to build this out almost to the area below, or actually technically yes, to the area below. So we're going to bring this out 7 more foundations, and then over 5. Because we are not covering this foundation, so this is essentially the 9th one in, but we're missing the front as well, so 9 minus 1, we want an 8 by 5 foundational area. And now to get the bottom part of the sandwich layer complete, let's go ahead and grab our 1 meter high wall, and then measure down a single 4 meter wall, and then a 1 meter wall again. You can also just use like varying foundation heights if you don't have the 1 meter wall at your disposal. I cannot recall off the top of my head if it is unlocked via the Awesome Shop or it's just immediately accessible. But you can definitely just use regular foundations to calculate the measurements of all of this. So do another 7 by 5 area. Now we'll go in 1, 2, 3, 4 foundations. This 4th one in from the back is going to be where our floor hole comes up for 1, and then next to that, or the 5th one from the back, is going to be where our other iron ingots come up. Before we get any other logistics sorted out down here, let's go ahead and get our constructors in place above. So for these, we're going to have 7 constructors making iron rods and 5 constructors making iron plates. However, we're just going to do 2 banks of 6 on either side, and we're going to have the output of the constructor on the exterior edge, so we want the input toward the middle. And when placing the constructor, you can see the white hitbox is in alignment with the seam of the foundation here. So we'll go ahead and get 5 more built on this side, and then the full 6 on this side. We'll get our floor holes in place as well. We want these placed on the seam, like so, for the input. And for the output, essentially if we were to have one in the middle, we build it right next to it, like so. And then we'll get these all connected with lifts as well. So one thing we also want to be cognizant about is if we have the output of our factory coming down on this middle foundation, we want to make sure that we keep awareness of that. So we'll go ahead and put a floor hole in place here. And then in between the 2 frontmost constructors, we also do another floor hole. This will be for our iron plates going up to the next floor. And then at the very back here, on the seams of the middle foundation, is where we do the floor holes as well. So I'll go ahead and quickly show you an aerial view of why we've laid this out like this, even though we have 7 constructors making iron rods and 5 making iron plates. So these front 4, these will be used for our iron plates, and those will be operating at 100% efficiency. And then the 3rd constructor from the right, or from the front on the right, will be making our iron plates at 50% speed. And the reason why we want to do that is if we look at the 100% speed, it requires 30 ingots per minute for the input. If we change that, it won't change the value up here because we don't have any power, but this will change to 15 iron ingots per minute, and this will give us an output of 10 iron plates. If we go ahead and shift over on the opposite mirrored side and we look at the iron rod recipe at 100%, it is 15 iron ingots per minute. So, in quick summation, we now have 8 constructors, these 7 making our iron rods, and then this one here at 50% making our iron plates. All 8 have an input of 15 iron ingots, and that makes life very easy. So with that, let's go ahead and head down below and get the logistics sorted out. So on the front 4 here, where we essentially have this grouping of 3, this is the input here and here and here and here, and this is our 120 iron ingots coming up from the bottom. So what we want to do is in between these pairs and in alignment with that lift is take a splitter, input facing the lift, and then next to that we want to take another splitter on both sides off of the one in the middle, and this will allow us to just simply split the 120 ore into 4 lines of 30. Use a Mark II belt to connect that. So we have our front 4 constructors making all your plates complete, and so now we have a 1 to 8, which is fairly simple as well. So, and don't get tripped up, as I almost always do. These back 2 are not attached to the constructors. Those are the outputs for our rods. So we don't want to do 1, 2, 3, 4. We want to do from the front availability 1, 2, 3, 4. And so in the middle of the 2 is where we want to take our splitter and split like that. In between each grouping of 2, we want a splitter as well. And we want the input of the splitter facing the long edge of our factory. You'll see why in a second. So we can go ahead and get these all connected up with our lifts. And then on the middle here, so the middle of the second column essentially, and in alignment with the first splitter that we built, we want the input from that splitter. So we can go ahead and actually just go ahead and take our Mark II lift, bring that up from the bottom into the splitter, Mark I belts connecting, and then a Mark I belt connecting, like so. So we essentially have our 120 coming up, and this splitter splits into 2 lines of 60. So this line of 60 comes over to here, into this splitter. This splitter splits into 2 lines of 30, and then each of those lines of 30 gets splits into its own respective line of 15. So we'll go ahead and get the last splitter in place over here. Just like that, pretty simple belting. Now for the output of this floor, again, the front 4 constructors are our iron plates, as well as the third from the front on the right. So starting with that one, third back on the right, we're going to take our merger and bring it in. We want the output facing the front. So actually it's better if we look at it like this. And what we essentially want is a 1 meter gap over here, so that way this is not sticking out into the wall. And we can just go ahead and bring our lift down from the constructor and directly into the merger. Go ahead and do that for the remainder 2 on this side, as well as the other 2 on the opposite side. So we will have that coming up into this floor hole here. And so what we can do is take our merger and bring that in alignment. Or if we look at how this has a nice 90-degree bend, essentially this seam of the foundation is where we want our merger facing toward the middle here. So now we can go ahead and take a Mark II lift because we have 90 iron plates coming up. So connect that like so, and then just use a Mark I belt on each side. Let's go ahead and get a floor hole in place here, And while we're at it, a Mark 1 lift. I like to have it facing the front so that way in the happenstance you're at this elevation, I guess, you'll be able to see the modular frames coming down, which is kind of nice. So we're essentially repeating the exact same thing for the iron rods. We're bringing the 4 on the back left to that floor hole there, and then the back 3 to the respective floor hole on its own side as well. And these will just be Mark 1 lifts going up. Alright, we now have this floor sorted out. Just like that. Getting these second floors started, go ahead and build a regular crosswalk and then bring up our stairs twice. Use a regular crossing and then a T. Railing facing toward the middle again. And then we'll go ahead and bring our stairs up 3 times. I know it's a little late in the guide to say this, but essentially for every time we build a stair that is 4 meters in height, if you don't have access to the stairs, you just build up, in this instance, 3 4-meter foundations. I'll go ahead and get some more crossings in place here. And let's go ahead and get our sandwich floor started out. This time around we're doing a double height, that's why we built up an extra foundation. So what we'll do is take our 1 meter and then do a 4, 4, and then a 1. Build this out to the same area as above. And then we go ahead and head back up and get our constructors and assembler locations determined. The best way to do that would be to place our floor holes first. So starting from the back in the middle, 1 foundation, 2 foundation, and then once we get to the 3rd, just on the opposite side of the halfway point of that foundation is where we're going to do our floor hole. Repeat the same thing on the foundations next to it, like so. And then go in 1 more foundation. And where the half point would be, and against the seam here. Oh, I'm sorry, on this side of the seam here. And just on the left side of the halfway point is where we want our floor hole as well. So repeating that same thing on the opposite side here. Like so. So for these, this is the input for our constructors. So we'll switch to those and get those in place. And when placing these, you want the soft clearance color to pop up. And then these are the inputs, or I'm sorry, the output portion for our constructors. Get the remaining floor holes in place and get these all built up. Oh, that is 1 too close. I built this on the wrong side here. Goes over here. The way you can kind of verify accuracy is once you get the floor holes in place, as long as you can fit a merger or a splitter in the middle here, like so, you are all set. So get these all connected up with lifts and floor holes. And then for the assemblers, looking at on the middle foundation here, we want to go 1 foundation up essentially and on that seam, like so. So as if we were to potentially have a floor hole in the middle, we want to build a floor hole on either side of that. And then we'll go ahead and get our assembler in place here first, and this will help us determine the positioning of the other 2. So again, you want that soft clearance yellow, whatever color it might be, since you can change it. Set, and now we can go ahead and get our inputs and outputs ready for these as well. then for the output of this floor, if we head to the back here, the back right, I guess if we're facing the factory, the back right, this will be for our reinforced iron plates, and then the back left will be for our rods. So now we can go ahead and do our belting down below here. So it can get a little tricky, and we're going to start with our output of screws first. And so if we go 4 foundations in from the back, or where we have these 4 conveyor holes, let's go ahead and build an 8x4 foundation on the edge, and then we'll run some 1 meters across, and we'll do the full width. And some of these, if not all of them, can be deleted later, but we need these in order to get a few things in place. So these 3 floor holes are for our output of screws. This is the one in the middle here. This will be providing 20 screws per minute instead of your standard 40. We need one of these underclocked. And so essentially on the middle foundation here, let's go ahead and grab our merger, and not at the very back of the foundation, but one in, and with the output of the merger facing forward toward the assemblers. We want to get that constructed, and then we can bring our lift down, and then do the same thing for the other 2 lifts on the side. And when bringing these lifts down, you want to make sure that they come down 1 extra step and are not perfectly aligned with, or perfectly butt up against the foundations above, like so. Next up, we have the 2 additional outputs here and here, and we're going to have these split underneath themselves. And so what we're going to do is place a splitter in alignment and against the seam here. Go ahead and bring our lift down. Repeat the same thing on the other side here. And then next to that splitter, we're going to take a merger, and with the output facing the front, build it toward the outside. Get that connected up. Oh, and I made the same mistake again. I apologize. We don't need these to connect to the merger in the middle. These will connect to the mergers on the outside. And so what we're kind of doing here is each of the assemblers needs to receive 60 screws per minute. So if I just quickly head up top to kind of go over the math real quick. This middle constructor here is making 20 screws per minute. It's underclocked to 50% speed. The remaining 4 constructors here, 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 and here, these are producing 40 screws each. So we have 40 times 4 is 160, plus an additional 20 is 180. And then we take that 180 and split that into 3 assemblers. So the way we are accomplishing a line of 60 per assembler is we have the 40 coming down from the back left. So we're facing the back of the factory. The back left assembler or constructor is providing 40 screws. And then we have a merger here. And a splitter here. So we have 40, and then we have 40 coming down through here. This is going to split once, and then twice. So we have 20 going into this merger here, merging with the 40 here, giving us 60 as the output from that merger. Then we have 20 coming into this middle merger, 20 coming down from this side, and then another 20 coming in like so. And that gives us an additional 60 screws on the inside merger as well. So let's go ahead and get the other side belted up. Again, that is a merger facing toward the front. Let me make sure we have that constructor in place. We do. Okay. So yes, merger facing toward the front, right next to it. Bring that belt over. Get this connected up here. And then we can do, I'm going to be doing the left side for this. So each left input as if we're facing them. So from the back to the front, the left side. Getting these all connected up. Make sure we're hitting the merger over here. So doing it just like that. And then we do need to at least delete the foundations on the side. We can leave this if you want. We are going to be running some belting underneath. But we do need access to these lifts here on both sides. And these are the inputs to the constructors for the screws. So let's go ahead and get those sorted out. Here's where things also are somewhat tricky. So we have our rods coming up from the seams of the foundation below. So that is here, and here. And we have our output of 60 rods over here. So for this one, real quick, in the back left, so that's the front. So looking at the back left where our miner is located, we're just going to bring our lift up just a little bit. I mean, you can technically do it down here. I guess I'm just going to go ahead and do it here as well. And then we'll bring into the floor above. And that'll be a straight 60 going up to the assemblers for our modular frames. And then the remaining 45 that we have coming up is going to be for our screws. So to quickly recap though, in terms of how we're going to split this 45 up, we have 5 constructors, 4 of which are at 100%, and the recipe for screws is 10 rods in, 40 screws out. So that's 40 of our 45. And then our 1 constructor that is taking, or is operating at 50% is going to be taking the remaining 5. So the way we're going to load balance this, I feel like I'm missing a floor hole. No, I'm not. That's the output for the reinforced iron plates. Trips me up every time. So right next to this floor hole, we're going to bring up a splitter. We'll get this connected. And then in front of that splitter, we'll leave that for a second. We're going to build a splitter on top of the splitter. Orientation doesn't matter. We will be deleting it. And then on top of that, we will build a merger with the output facing the front of the factory. We will connect the sides with lifts, like so. And then in front of this splitter, we will place another splitter, like that. And then off to the right, we're going to place a merger with the output. If I can find it, jeez. Facing toward the long edge, like so. Get these connected up in between. And now let me kind of go over what's going on here. So we have our 45 iron rods coming up. That 45 is split into 1, 2, and 3 lines of 15. 2 lines of that 15 are coming up into this merger. And that makes this output here 30 iron rods. The remaining 15 coming into this splitter here gets split once, twice, and then 3 times, giving us each output 5 iron rods per minute. So if we have 5 going up into this constructor, oh, nice little visual bug, so you can always build it from the opposite direction. So this constructor above us here is the one at 50%, only needing 5 rods per minute. Then the 5 from here and the 5 from that belt there re-merge together. And then we build a lift up once, and then twice. And that is our constructor up there receiving 10 rods as well. And then for measurement's sake, we can go ahead and take a lift, and on the seam, so against the seam here, but then on the seam here, we'll build a lift like so, and this will help us get our splitter into place. And then we will rebuild our lift. And we want that to receive the 30 iron rods from here. This goes into the splitter here. And so we have iron rods that need to conjoin here. Here. And here. So we can bring the sides. The side over here like this. This will come down like so, and then this one will join over here. Just like that. So now if you wanted, to put some support in for the foundations here, you can do so. Otherwise, you can get rid of them. And if you're not a huge fan of how much floatiness this has, one of my viewers on Twitch made the recommendation of using the small pillar support above the mergers here, and I think they look pretty good. And I'll show you a little bit of a top view real quick. So they do clip in a bit, but they don't look unbelievable, if you will. It looks very intentional in how it's constructed. So that's one way you can kind of make it seem visually realistic. All right, so next up we have our iron plates, and those are coming up here. You can always look down below to verify. And also, let's not forget we have the output of our factory located here. Get that connected up with the lift, and again having it exposed toward the front side. And so we have the other three inputs for our assemblers here. Before we do that, let's go ahead and get the output for our assemblers done. So similar to what we did for our screws, let's go ahead and take a 4-meter foundation to get the height, and then build 2 more foundations next to it. And all we need to do is on the middle middle floor hole, we will take a merger with the output facing the middle here. Oop, build this over 1 more. So we can bring our lift down like so. And this will give us a nice 90-degree bend when we have just a little bit of gap. So now that we have that in place, we can go ahead and get rid of this, and we're going to leave that merger alone for now. So we'll bring up our Mark 2 lift. That Mark 2 essentially will need to feed into these 3. So if we bring a lift down just for measurement, and we can kind of see where this lines up, right next to that we can go ahead and build a splitter. Oop. Off by 1. Similar to what we did with the merger above, we want that a little bit of separation for the nice 90-degree bend here. Just like that. Mark 2 belt rather. Connected in. And then next to this lift, you can see that we have a nice little straight shot. So we can do a Mark 1 lift. And then we will just bring our reinforced iron plates all the way to the back here. In alignment with what our lift is going to be here. Just like that. So definitely a little chaotic in here, but when done in bite-sized chunks, not too bad. Let's go ahead and head up now. So to start on our final floor, we'll go up 1, 2, 3. And do our catwalk crossing, and then our T. And then stairs twice up. And then here we will do catwalk corner. And then when placing your foundation, make sure the edge of it is in alignment with the rail here. So that way you're not off by half a foundation length. And then get this built out again to the specifications below. And we're going to do a double high. So that is a single and then a double double, then a single. So single, double, double, single. Now we have that. Let's go ahead and get our assembler location sorted out. So from the right, so we're facing the back, so the right, then we go in 1 foundation, essentially on the halfway point right here is where we're going to do our floor holes, like so. We'll get our assembler in place. And then we build 4 more next to it. And then we'll get our floor holes in place and our lifts in place as well. Also, just this is a nuance here, and for the current version of the game, so client number 176027. When placing these lifts, you can see, and I'll just demonstrate this through here. It's like a nice little tip. You can see the hologram when I'm just hovering it, I haven't clicked yet, it's facing the wrong direction. Or just it's facing a direction. And then when I click, it's facing a different direction. So notice that when I built this one, I need to rotate it clockwise or to the right. So I'm going to scroll up on my mouse wheel and that rotates it to the right 90 degrees. Now, when I go to build the second one, you can see it's facing in a different direction. And then when I click, it's also facing again in an inconsistent direction in which I just built. Now I need to rotate it 90 degrees counterclockwise or to the left. So I scroll down on my mouse wheel and that connects it up. So that's why, and it's predictive for the most part. It can be predictive. So that's why I was able to place those lifts as quickly as I was. Anyway, I digress. Now that we have our assemblers in place, it's now time to do some tricky belting in here. We have 2 sets of a 1-to-5 split coming up. In order to get that started, the back middle foundation, we're going to place a 4 meter. Actually, we'll do it on this corner here to make things simpler. And then next to that, we essentially want the middle 3 columns of the factory to have 8x1 foundations over top, or just a 1 meter foundation over top. So that way we can do belting up top, and then we can also do belting below. Before we get to the belting below, let's look at our lifts here. The left input for the assemblers, this is going to be coming down from the floor below. The floor below is going to be where we are doing our rods. So below each of the ones on the left, we want to place our floor holes and then get them connected up with lifts. And when placing, you just want to make sure that you have the lift input output direction in the right direction, where we want the input on the bottom, or the orange arrows essentially. Now we can go ahead and head down below. And so we have our rods coming up here and our reinforced iron plates coming up here. So we can actually do a hole for both of those, like so. We'll focus on our rods first. And for our rods, we are going to go 3.5 foundations in on the middle. So that's 1, 2, 3. This is the half. And then we're going to take a splitter and place it on that halfway point, but not in the middle, like you see here. We want to actually bring it over 1. So there's this little bit of a gap between the seam here and the splitter. Next, we want to take a merger with the output facing toward the front of the factory. And then on the back side of this splitter, we want another merger. And we want the output of that merger facing toward the back of the factory. With a merger in the front, we're going to take a splitter. And then we're going to take another splitter, rotate it 180 degrees so that way the input is toward the front of the factory. And then on the opposite side of the merger from that splitter, another splitter. This is a fairly compact, horizontal compact, if you will, 1-to-5 splitter. And so just to kind of run you through the way this is set up, we have a splitter here, and this is splitting into 2 mergers. We have 1 merger here and 1 merger there. Each of those mergers then connects to a splitter. These splitters, essentially, we've just created a 1-to-6 splitter. To do a 1-to-5, we need to take one of those lines and bring it back into both of those mergers. And so that's what this splitter here is for. This splitter connects to this merger and this merger. The output from this splitter, which has 3 outputs remaining, we're going to take one of those and bring it into that splitter. So that way this 6th output is then evenly distributed amongst both of these mergers, and therefore we have a 1-to-5 split. Now when it comes to connecting these, we have our outputs or our inputs to connect up on the front edge. Like so. And then the remaining 3 we have over here. So this is the middle one. this middle connection will actually face the opposite direction of the other 4. And then we will bring this belt from the splitter out to where this accordion, the edge of the lift is. Bring that over and in. And this gives us just like a nice little loop here. And then the other 2 outputs from the splitter are pretty straightforward. We just need to connect them up like so. And then get this connected up to the rods coming up. When connecting this, make sure you're connecting to the splitter and not the merger. This is an input for the merger. I made this mistake several times where I'm trying to figure out why is this not working. It's because I brought the input into the merger and not the splitter. So just keep note of that. So now that we have our rods complete, we can head up to the next floor, and essentially we're doing the exact same thing. However, this time around, instead of going to the halfway point on this foundation, because we are now using the right side of the assembler input, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 full foundations. And then again, not in the direct center of the foundation. We want to bring it back toward us where we have this little 1 meter gap, and we're going to repeat the exact same thing. So I'm going to use my directional terminology as if I am facing the input of this splitter. So we're going to do a merger, output facing the right, a merger behind the splitter, output facing the left. And then on the left side of that, we're going to do another splitter. And then we're going to do a splitter leading to the right, and then a splitter leading to the left, facing into those foundations. And so just to explain this one more time, we have the input. This is going into 2 mergers, like so. Those 2 mergers feed into 2 splitters. And so now we have a 1 to 6 split. We need to take one of those and feed it back into those 2 mergers, like so. And now we can connect the remaining connections. So we bring our lifts down. And similar to how we connected below, we'll get these all connected up. Don't forget the one in the middle here. This faces the opposite direction. And then we have our belt in alignment with the edge of the lift for our nice bend. Oh, it's facing the wrong direction. Now we have the output to deal with. Actually, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and get our reinforced iron plates brought up. That would actually help. And so again, from the splitter, not the merger, bring our input belt over and get that connected up. Now we have the 5 outputs to deal with, and we're going to be leading those over here to the middle. This is where they're going to go down. So we're just going to take our mergers and in alignment with the floor holes, like so, with the merger output facing toward the front. Up. Oh, that's off too, isn't it? Little tricksy. Now I bring this over. Just like that. now we'll just go ahead and make sure that all of our connections are properly set for the output. And we also need to join our floors together. So that sandwich layer is complete. We bring our inputs up. And so for that, the way I like to do this is I use the small pillar frames in order to get those set up correctly. And I'll just do it here and then I'm going to time lapse through the rest. We do a 1 meter foundation underneath the top, or 1 meter foundation underneath the floor above. And then we will go ahead and take our small frame pillar. We'll do 2 of those. And so now you can see that we have a 1 meter gap above and below. So this allows us to actually bring our belting up. And so this side here, where we have our 5 constructors and 3 assemblers, this is going to be for our 60 iron rods going up. So that one's complete. And then we have our, I believe, 15 reinforced iron plates. We have 3 assemblers, so we can go ahead and get all of these in place. Actually, I guess I won't time lapse because some of these require Mark II and Mark I, so I will be sure to specify those. Also, in placing these, I like to place them where the lift structure is on the exterior side, so that way from the middle we can kind of see what we have going on. And I guess also while we're doing it, I will also apply all of the recipes as well, since I know that's been an occasional ask from some individuals to see that done. So we have modular frames all on the top floor here. Nope, not reinforced iron plates. Okay. So we have our 5 constructors. These are making screws. The only one that is underclocked is the one in the middle here. So this will be screws at 50% speed. Then we have our reinforced iron plates at the assemblers in the front. You can do the output from this floor for the modular frames. Oops, sorry. The frame pillar. Actually, before I forget, let's just double check and make sure we have the have it connected in that sandwich layer above here. I'm inclined to think that we do. And it looks like we do. Nope, it looks like the lift snapped weird. So let's see if we can't fix that real quick. Let's see if I can do it from up here. Yeah, so it looks like I just didn't have it snapping correctly. So we have that floor sorted out. Go ahead and get small little frame pillars here as well, because that'll actually help for our floor below this. I can't seem to change the direction on that. Let's see if we can figure out why. It's because I prematurely built the lift and I wasn't paying attention to the orientation. We have our iron plates coming up here, so this is a Mark II lift situation. Oh. I'll have this facing the opposite direction. Just making sure I hear that beep, that it snapped. These 2 back here, these are for our rods. We can just go ahead and place a foundation in the middle like so, and then do our frame pillar. These are just Mark 1s. sure we have the modular frames correctly joined up. That's right, because we fixed that issue here. That's all connected up. Now we have these two here. And these are Mark II lifts. We have 120 ingots going up each here. And I think, yeah, I'll have them facing toward the outside, away from the middle. And then last but not least, we have a Mark I lift here. Actually, I believe that is last and least. We can go ahead and double check on the inside here. I'm pretty sure we have this already connected up, which we do. So that's technically build complete. All we still have left to do is just kind of enclose things. If you wanted to put some glass for your sandwich layers, do the exterior glass like this first. Reason being, if you look here, it lines up on this floor, but then if we look at where this break point is, and I'll go ahead and just use fly mode for this, the glass doesn't always line up with how we do the floors. So like if you were to build glass here off of that floor, you can see that we now have this awkward gap and it doesn't mesh with the top of the floors, which is what I would prefer. And especially with the glass on the outside down here, like we want to start at a consistent level. And if you build the glass on the long faces of the sandwich layer, it doesn't work out that well. So I'll do the exterior long edge like so. And then I will actually manually, or I'll just do the glass here like this. So that's my recommendation if you want to do that. But I'm going to go ahead and just wrap up the aesthetics and the stairways. I'm not going to bore you guys with those tedious things. And I will see you all on the other side. Alright, that'll wrap up our guide. I hope you all found a lot of value in this tutorial. If you did, feel free to leave a like, it does help out the channel. And if you want to see more content in the future, be sure to subscribe if you are not already and hit that notification bell. Plus, if you have any questions about this build, please leave a comment below and I will get back to you as soon as I can and do what I can to help you out. But with that, thank you all for watching. Take care.